Welcome, everybody. It's Pete Parker with Pathways to Aviation. It's the beginning, the very first session of our Aviation Career Week. In fact, it's our fourth annual. Who would have thought that we would have our fourth annual? It is our second in a virtual format. And to be quite frank with you, this might be the platform from this point forward in the years ahead, because we're able to bring students and active job seekers from all around the country, all around the world into one room to talk to amazing industry leaders. And just to let you know, Pathways to Aviation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization with one quest, and that is to inform, inspire, and engage aviation and aerospace's next generation. This is just one of the programs that we offer to help make that happen. So today we're being informed, we're learning, hopefully being inspired, and if you want, engage with our leaders. I do ask that in chat right now, you place your name, the school or organization you represent, and your career aspiration, or if you're already in the industry, what your specialties currently are. Please put that in there, because that'll allow our guest speakers to learn a little bit more about you as they pop up on the screen. Everybody's muted. And if you're asked to ask a question or share a comment, that's when I or Eric will unmute you. But until then, just stay muted and enjoy the show. At this point in the program, I want to turn it over to one of our candidates. She's a rising junior at Clemson who loves aviation, and she is going to moderate this session. I'm going to come out of the screen. Amanda's going to take over. And Amanda, go ahead, introduce the group, and it's your program. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pete. And like he just said, my name is Amanda. I'm a junior political science major at Clemson University. I am from right outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, just to give you a little bit about me. There at Clemson, I am the director of marketing for the oldest continuous flying club in the nation, which is pretty exciting. As director of marketing, I basically just introduce and instruct the students and alumni that are even remotely interested in aviation, and just give them a place where they can aspire to be whatever they want to be in the aviation industry. And in addition to that, I also maintain all the marketing platforms for our club to increase the membership. And I do that through the use of social media, the print marketing, and really anything else that the club needs me to do. I'm always there to help out. As I am here with Pathways to Aviation, I love helping out everybody I can and learning everything I can about aviation and the whole career around it. I also would love to note that I am very, very new to aviation. I decided that I want to aspire to be a commercial pilot a couple months ago, and Pete has been guiding me to becoming that and so much more. So all that being said, I'm very eager to learn all I can from our speakers today. And that being said, I would love to introduce our first speaker, Jessica Fay. Jessica is the Chief Officer at Mountain Lion Aviation and has been since June 2020. When she's not flying for Mountain Lion, she's keeping busy with her duties being the co-owner and COO of Sierra Era LLC. There, she's the aircraft maintenance and flying training facility in California that provides numerous services to piston GA aircrafts, including the Circus Service Center. And a quick interesting fact about her is that she also speaks Swedish. So take it away, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you, Pete and Eric, for inviting me to be part of this. I love Pathways of Aviation. I've been a little bit part of it for quite a few years now, and I just love seeing all these young people getting all excited and stoked about aviation. So like I said, my name is Jessica Fay, and I am currently the CEO of both Mountain Lion Aviation and Sierra Aero. So we do everything from Part 135 charter operations in Truckee and now recently in Dallas, Texas, where I'm located now, and Sierra Aero, who does maintenance and flight training. So we have the two locations in Truckee and Dallas, and like I said, everything from maintenance to flight training to charter services. Did you want me, Amanda, to keep talking about myself a little bit?
Yeah, you can definitely do that.
All right. So like Amanda said, I was actually born and raised in Sweden with absolutely no aspirations at all to get into aviation, I should say. My background is actually accounting and finance. And when I moved to the US about 20 years ago, my husband was an instructor and a pilot and and a mechanic. And somehow we decided it would be a great idea to open a small maintenance facility in Truckee, which we did. So I hopped into that with no aviation experience apart from a couple of flight lessons, and basically went to work on the shop floor and learned from the ground up, and read a lot, studied a lot, learned from my mechanics, and slowly throughout the years we grew in Truckee. We added in-flight training. We became a Cirrus service center. We pursued a Part 145 limited repair station certification with the FAA. So now we do avionics work, garment installation. We're, like I said, authorized Cirrus service center. And as of a couple of years ago, we partnered up with Mountain Line Aviation, who provides charter services. And last year, me and my husband moved to Dallas, Texas, and I took over the CEO role for both companies. And no, I don't have the Southern drawl yet, but I'm going to work on that because I love it. Yeah, so that's what I do right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. And our second speaker is Angel Green. She is a graduate from Michigan Institute of Aviation and Technology and Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. She then went on to start her career with the UPS for several years and then found other pathways to drive her love for aviation. But finally, she found herself in the position of aircraft maintenance line supervisor for UPS, and she's been there since February 2013.
Helps if I unmute. Hi, I'm Angel. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, I am currently a quality control supervisor at UPS Airlines. I've been here since 2013. Before that, I was a mechanic out at a repair station in Goodyear, Arizona for about 10 years. I am also currently the president of the Association of Women in Aviation Maintenance, or AWAM, as a lot of people know them as, and a mother of 3. So happy Mother's Day to any of the mothers that are listening in. So my career journey was kind of a little, not a straight line for sure. I was gonna be a journalist up until my junior year in high school. It was my dream goal. I was gonna be a journalist, travel the world. That was what I was gonna do until I job shadowed a TV reporter and absolutely hated it and said, you know what, that's not for me. I had more fun with the tech analyst putting the whole TV show together. Let's reevaluate what I'm doing. My uncle was avionics in the Marine Corps. So I said, well, you know what, that sounds like fun. Let's go do that. And my parents said, oh, please no. How about a 4-year college? And I said, oh, no, that's not for me. So we compromised and I went to the 2-year tech program at Michigan Institute of, it's now Michigan Institute of Aviation Technology. At the time it was MIOA, but still same place out in Michigan. And so after I graduated from that, went to Arizona, moved across the country, and just me, little 19-year-old girl, out in the big bad world of aircraft maintenance. Had a great time, learned so much, ended up meeting my husband and starting the family out there. But my big dream was always to get back to UPS. I worked for him going through school and said, you know what, that's where my dream is. I want to be on big airplanes, not little airplanes. I want to be at the cargo because boxes don't complain. And I ended up going back to school to go get my bachelor's of aviation maintenance management at Embry-Riddle. I did their worldwide online program, which is fantastic for anybody that is interested because it gave me the flexibility of moving around. So when I saw the job at UPS for a management trainee, I still had 1 semester left and I was able to pick up and move back across the country and finish my degree while starting my new job, which meant I didn't have to defer any student loans because I could start paying for it. So, like I said, I've been here ever since. It's been a great adventure, and I'm happy to be here to talk to everybody.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Angel. And our third speaker today is Caitlin Killinger, and she has a degree in aviation flight science and maintenance technology from Western Michigan. Soon after graduation, she was hired as a survey pilot, camera operator, and A&P mechanic for Midwest Aerial Photography. And then she was led to pursuing her career that she's in today. And today, Caitlin is very successful as captain at Horizon Air.
Hi, good morning. Yep, I'm Caitlin Klinger. Thanks for having me on. And my background currently, I am a captain at Horizon Air. It's been a little bit over a year. I fly the Bombardier -8 Q400 76-seat turboprop. It's a lot of fun. And basically, my start in aviation, I've always loved math and science. Growing up, I was involved with Girl Scouts as well. I decided to go to Western Michigan University for aviation flight science. I didn't have any flight training ahead of time. I always asked my parents for flying lessons. And finally, once I decided, yes, I'm going to college for aviation, I got my first flying lesson on my 18th birthday and absolutely loved it and was definitely hooked. I did my private pilot training at a Part 61, FAA Part 61, a small flight school. While I was taking my undergrad classes at Western, and then I did my instrument through commercial multi at Western Michigan, where the private pilot was in a Piper Warrior, and then Western, their main trainer is the Cirrus, and then the commercial multi, we did that in a Piper Seminole. At Western, I started to get involved with different student organizations right away, such as Aviation Student Council, PAMA, which is Professional Aviation Maintenance Association, NIFA, Intercollegiate Flying Association, flight team. So with the flight team, we have 2 competitions a year, and there's flying events, ground events, and that's with over 30 different universities that all join and meet up together. And it's very rewarding. I was also the student representative on the safety committee there. And getting involved with the safety committee at university has kind of helped me into a role that I have currently at the airline, which is on the flight operations quality assurance department. About my sophomore year at university, I decided to add on the aviation maintenance technology major. I was signing up for classes and thought, oh, props, that sounds fun. Engines, that sounds fun. And you had to be a maintenance major in order to take those classes. So I said, okay, let's add it on. It added with summer school about an extra year and a half out of the 4 years. So I was at school for about 5 years total. And I definitely saw where the flying side helped me with my maintenance and vice versa as well. So they definitely marry each other very well. And I started to do a survey in 2014 out of Columbus, Ohio. We flew single engines and twin engine aircraft, and I flew in over half the country, a lot of VFR type stuff. But I always say that my instrument scans is pretty keyed in because we fly straight lines and we have to hold that line for a heading for about 40 miles at times. And you would do anything from about 1,500 feet above an airport, talking to tower, up to about 14,000 feet, and depending on what the client or what the job was. And then I started with the survey company too. I would do a lot of on the road maintenance. So different things like changing magnetos, changing brakes or tires, doing oil changes. And so that was very rewarding as well. And kept me definitely busy. In the downtime during the years I was doing survey, when we wouldn't have any jobs, I was able to do maintenance as well in the hangar and keep busy with that. In late 2016, I decided to add on my inspector authorization, which is being able to do annual inspections on airplanes. So I've done, in between 2016 and 17, I did about 4 annuals on aircraft before I started at Horizon Air, based out of Portland, Oregon now in 2017. And I sat as a first officer for about 2 years. And then again, I've been a captain now for a little over 1 year at Horizon. In 2018, there was opening in our flight ops quality assurance department, which is, we look at data, flight data of our different flights that happen. If anything seems a little out of the ordinary, we kind of investigate it a little bit. We compare it to what our policies and procedures are and kind of wonder, how did the crew find themselves in this situation? And we do pilot education, a little bit of extra training, and it's really just to to make sure everybody's keeping standard, and it's for the safety of not just at our airline, but amongst other airlines as well. We will we'll cross compare data sometimes. So, that's where my career has led me this far.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Caitlin. And thank you so much to Jessica and Angel as well. So game plan for today is we're just going to jump right in. We have a couple of questions we have prepared. So I think it's best that we can just hear from all three of you for about 3 to 5 minutes in each question. So I guess the first question that I do have for you guys today is, what are the biggest challenges you faced as you pursued a career in aviation? And whoever wants to start can start.
Oh, I can hop on. Well, for me, because my career path has been a bit different since I didn't know that this is what I wanted to do when I went to college. So my biggest challenge was definitely hopping in, not being dry behind my ears when it came to running a maintenance facility. But what I ran into too is that about 6 months into opening the shop, my husband got deployed because he was also flying helicopters for the National Guard. So he went to Afghanistan for a year and kind of left me there in Turkey. But, you know, I hired a couple of mechanics, and I had to work really hard to get the knowledge and the experience that I needed moving forward with the shop. But I think that was definitely my biggest challenge, but it also opened my eyes to the fact that you can gain the knowledge and the experience that you need by learning by doing, which was, you know, in hindsight, probably one of the best things that happened to our shop, that I had to go through that learning experience, the very hands-on, anything from taking seats out of planes, opening inspection panels, cleaning, learning how to change out magnetos without having that background before I hopped into it. So big challenge, but again, you know, really happy that I had to go through that.
Awesome, thank you. And Angel or Caitlin?
I can go. So I'd say my biggest challenge probably was what a lot of people would call imposter syndrome. Wait a minute, I can't do this. So, but I've already gotten my feet in, so let's fake it till we make it type of thing. But it definitely was a little bit of a struggle to say, you know, this is something I can do. This is something that especially after I finished A&P school, you know, I've had the beginning of some training. Now I know what the starting point is. And then learning to reach out and make those connections for people to help you along the way. In A&P school, I had an awesome group of guys that we went through the whole program together. We were from start to finish. There was 6 of us. I mean, we studied together. We hung out together. We, you know, they were my tribe there. And then after A&P school, it just so happened I was doing a volunteer event at a local airport for, it was called Operation Christmas Child, and they would load airplanes full of toys for foster kids. And I was riding in this truck with a bunch of toys and a bunch of other people, nobody I knew. And I overheard this other lady talking about being an aircraft mechanic. And I went, whoa, wait a minute, what? That there's somebody out there that's already doing this, because I was the only female in my class at the A&P school. So this was one of those, whoa. So I somehow, you know, kind of sidled up to her and it's like, hey, I overheard you. Not that I was listening in on conversations, but where do you work? What's the, you know, I am just getting ready to finish my program. So she was a fantastic resource. She took me to my first Women in Aviation conference that year. It happened to be in Cincinnati, which was an easy drive from Michigan, and she let me stay with her. So for a college kid, that really helped out with the rooming situation, and introduced me to the Women in Aviation group, and also dragged me along to all the AWAM events that were at the conference that year. So I got to be introduced to other people that had been in the industry or were getting in the industry and could tell me, you know, where I needed to go, what I needed to do, tips along the way, which was fantastic. And I distinctly remember looking at one of our other board members at AWAM. She was pushing a stroller with 2 kids in it. And I went, wait a minute. So you can have a family and do this? That was always one of those big myths that you know, if you're going to be in aviation, you're going to work crazy hours, you're going to be gone weekends, you're going to be gone holidays, which for some parts of the industry, that's very true. But for some people, that's exactly what they want. So that's okay. But there is so much that the industry has to offer that that's not the only path. So that was a big encouragement that this, you know, you didn't have to give up some dreams just because you wanted this too. So that was very impactful. And then when I got out to my first job, I literally walked in and I was standing there going, okay, I don't even know who I'm supposed to report to. And I asked the question, hey, I'm supposed to find this guy named Tom. And they went, oh, he's in a different spot now. And I went, oh, okay. So I'll just stand here. And then I slowly got to, you know, okay, I'll go talk to this person. I'll go to talk to that person, and found out where I needed to be and all of that. Like I said, moved all the way across the country at 19 and knew no one. And so I had several guys that I call them my surrogate fathers and big brothers, because they were all willing to take me under their wing, teach me the basics, go, that's not the tool you need. You need to go get a set of these. Don't talk to that person. Do talk to that person. That here, come to the break room, learn how to play pinochle. We'll take you under our wing. So there was a lot of mentorship in the form of male allies, even at that job, I was pretty much the only female on the floor. So that was one of the things in my interview at UPS. They asked me, what's going to be your biggest challenge? And I said, well, to be honest, it's going to be working with women. And they went, what? I said, I've been working with the guys for over 10 years now. I said, you guys have other female mechanics. You have other female supervisors. I said, that's new territory for me. And so it really kind of put it in perspective for them, the difference in some of the different areas of aviation. So I'd say that, but trying to get over the obstacle of being in my own way was definitely a little bit of a struggle for me.
Thank you so much for sharing.
I agree with what Angel was saying there with that. I think when you start down a new avenue in this industry, or even just getting started out, where do I start? Where are the resources involved with networking even? And it can be something as small as just going to your local airport and just starting asking questions around. And then once you even have your foot in the door somewhere, or just have a contact, some people in this industry are so willing to share with you, try to get you involved as well, or put you in contact with somebody who can get answers for you. And then resources as far as, yeah, you're starting out at a new job. Where is this located? I feel like I'm in the complete dark about this, and really it's just ask questions, ask as many questions as you need to. And so many people are willing to help.
Awesome, thank you so much. And then I think my next question for you three is, what are the obstacles today young women will face when pursuing jobs?
I can hop on now first as well then. Well, first, I just want to say that I love that everybody on the panel today are actually in maintenance as well, because that to me is pretty rare, right? And that is, leads me to the obstacles. Like, I've gone to so many conferences over the year where I end up being one of a handful of women in the room that own and run a maintenance facility. And it is pretty rare, but I think that the biggest obstacle is probably just the perception, like Angel was talking about too. Can I do this? Is it possible with a family? And it's a very male-dominated world. Maintenance is very male-dominated. And that was definitely my biggest obstacle, because people would walk in when we had, even when we'd been in business for a couple of years, and assume that I answer the phone, or can I speak to your supervisor? And I would say, I am actually the supervisor, so you can talk to me about your plane problem. But I think this is why I love events like this, because I think it's important to reach out to young women so they can see that it's not just about becoming a pilot. Aviation is so much more. And being a pilot or a mechanic, or like me, being more in an admin role, there are so many career opportunities for women in aviation. And I think that I think that we're starting to see that, but I still think it's a little bit tougher, especially in the maintenance field.
Awesome, thank you. And Angel, same question to you.
So I would definitely echo what Jessica just said, that it is still a very much male dominated field. I mean, the data has actually shown it's less than 3% of women in aviation maintenance specifically. And I don't know if you have better numbers, Caitlin, but I think the pilots have made some gains, but it's still nowhere near even 25%. So it's, there's a long way to go. There's a lot of opportunity. And the thing that I've always said is, don't be daunted by those numbers. You can do it. And I think the thing for anybody that's trying to attract talent, whether it be getting kids in middle school and high school interested in aviation, college kids interested in the aviation fields, they are going to need to see that diversity. They need to see that the kids looking outside the airplane window need to see somebody that looks like them on the other side of that window. They need to see somebody that looks like them when they're leaving and the pilots are doing their post-flight in the cockpit. If they don't see somebody that looks like them, they don't see it as a viable option of a career. I think there's a lot of industries that are doing a much better job of showing the diversity, and that is a huge impact, I think. So I think that is definitely one of the obstacles that young women in general face. I think social media has helped a lot because there's a lot more access. Now, I'm personally glad that some of my, aviation maintenance exploits were not captured on camera for the world to laugh at. However, when I was looking through trying to find even a picture of me working on anything, it's not out there because I didn't have a cell phone with a camera back then. So I do think there's a huge, a lot of times the females are the ones behind the camera. So they're taking the picture, not necessarily asking for other people to take their picture, but that's what's going to show these kids that it's out there for them. So I think that's one of the biggest obstacles is definitely not realizing just how much is out there and the reality that it can be done.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was telling Pete this about a month ago that I didn't even consider being in anywhere close to aviation until I started just going down the pathway and just seeing how many women there actually are. And even if it is at less than 3%, there's still 3%, and you can be part of that 3%.
Right.
Awesome. Caitlin, same question to you.
Yeah, I agree with all of what we're saying here. And so, yeah, there's the bias that's out there, and an important thing is to just be aware that there's a bias, and we kind of all have it. And so once you have that awareness, then you can be a little bit more mindful about it. As women, I've heard it, we've all heard it. You get the comments and just kind of brush them off. And yeah, it's assumed sometimes for me that I'm the flight attendant, and it's like, well, okay, no, but can I still help you anyways? And you just kind of, there was other times with maintenance as well too, where I add a comment, they'll say, oh, well, they'll let anybody work on airplanes nowadays. And it's like, well, yeah, by anyone, you mean a certified aircraft mechanic. Yes, that's true. There'd be times with the survey, we'd walk out of an airplane, and I'd be with a non-pilot camera operator and who was a male, and sometimes people would walk right up to them and start asking them questions about the airplanes, and they're going, I have no clue, I'm not the pilot here. And so there, those assumptions, that's those bias. And just as long as we can be aware of that, we can maybe start to break down some of those.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oh, Angel, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was going to follow up with that with Caitlin. I think it's also important to realize that the biases go both ways. A lot of people assume that it's always the men that assume that you're not there in the professional form, but there's a lot of females that are also influenced by that same bias, even though they're in the same boat. So it is, I think, a good point there, Caitlin, that the bias is there, and the only way to start turning that ship is to recognize it and start addressing it from any level that you're at.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then one of my next questions is, what suggestions do you have for young women wishing to follow in your footsteps?
I think if you're interested in something and you have a dream for something, then go out there and try it. You never know until you give it a try, and you never know where it might lead you to.
I'd say don't be scared, go for it, and diversify your education. I see it in our business where, we have chief pilots, we have director of maintenance, we have director of daily operations, all our managers. Some of them are pilots, some of them are mechanics, but when you go into those roles, having some kind of business classes, be proficient in Excel, good at communicating, all those things really makes you a really even better package for somebody who wants to employ you. So I would suggest trying to diversify your education, like talking to these two women here too. I mean, being a pilot and a mechanic, it's actually pretty rare, and it's pretty amazing. Like when I can find mechanics that are also a pilot, I do the happy dance. So diversify as much as possible and learn different things, and get your hands dirty, like hands on. There's nothing like learning on the shop floor. I say that to people that want to become mechanics. School is wonderful, but where you really learn is when you put your hands on the tools and really start touching planes. That's when you're learning. So that would be my advice.
Thank you so much. And then Angel?
That's definitely good advice, Jessica. I love it. I would say definitely be bold. If you want to do something, decide what you want to do and go for it. I tell a lot of people, as soon as I got my MP, they're like, are you going to go get your pilot's license? I said, no. If that's what I wanted to do, that's what I would have done. So it's not for everybody, and that's okay. Same thing with, if you want to be a pilot and you have no interest in maintenance, that's okay too. We need each other. I can't do what I do without the pilots going and flying it, because otherwise it's kind of pointless. And they can't go out and fly if I'm not there fixing it. So there's that, but it also, like you said, it is great when you can do both, especially depending on what you want to do with that. The sky's the limit. I know we had given out some scholarships, and the one lady that got one of our scholarships to attend the Women in Aviation conference, she was interested in becoming a missionary pilot and mechanic, which that would be fantastic to have both skills in that type of a field, because you never know where you're going to end up with that. But yeah, I would definitely say, figure if you know what you want to do, just go for it. And then also reach out and make those networking connections, like events like this, with social media now, reaching out to groups on Facebook and Instagram and all the other ones that I don't even really know about, is fantastic, because the resources are out there. And I know personally, we've had certain people, I have one friend that she asked in the general forum on Facebook, they want me to become a lead mechanic. I don't know if I want to do it. I don't know if I can do it. And I said, if they're asking you, you're probably already doing the job. So you might as well take it and get the money for it. And she ended up taking it, and she is now the very first supervisor at a brand new airline. So she is going way above and beyond, what her wildest dreams were. And a lot of it was just that little push of, yeah, you can do this. And that comes from a great support group. So find yourself that support group.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you mentioned scholarships. Which organizations do you think offer the best kind of scholarships, most inclusive, whichever?
So I'm a little biased, obviously, as the president of AWAM. For maintenance especially, we have a lot of access to the maintenance scholarships, especially for women in aviation. We have a scholarship drive every year. We give ours out usually right around the Women in Aviation conference every year. Women in Aviation is also a great organization that has a huge scholarship program. So definitely look for those. This last year is not a very good indicator, because there was a lot of offness about it with all the COVID stuff, but both organizations still had scholarships that they gave away, as well as they tap into a lot of different sponsors that'll use those organizations to give the scholarships through. Those are the two biggest ones for women that I know of. There's others out there. Just do your homework. If they're, asking outrageous fees for applying and stuff, that's probably not a good indicator. But
Awesome, thanks.
Mhm.
And then I think one of my next questions is, what really inspired you three to go into aviation? Like, why did you even choose it in the first place?
Boy, I always say I didn't choose it, but but I am so glad that I ended up on this path. I want to say the first time I actually came to California, my husband picked me up in a little 182 in San Carlos and flew me to Truckee. And I'd never been in a small plane before, and I thought it was just the most coolest, amazing thing ever. And about halfway there, of course, he's a CFI. He says, "Do you want to take the controls?" And I went, "Sure." And I got to fly the plane. And once we landed and he started checking, doing his post-flight, that's when I got more interested. Never really thinking that I had a lot of mechanical interest, but that's kind of how it started. And having him next to me, I mean, he's been, people ask me all the time, how can you work so closely with your husband? But it works out pretty well. He's been such an amazing mentor and taught me so much. And yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Awesome, thanks for sharing.
so I didn't really think too much of aviation at all. Like I said, I only had the one uncle. He was in the Marine Corps, but not a huge, didn't like talk about it all the time or have a bunch of airplanes around all the time. I actually went to Europe in between my junior and senior year, and that was my first ever airplane ride. So good thing I liked it. That's when I said, you know what, that was after my whole journalism experiment. So I said, you know what, I want to do something with airplanes. This is really cool. This is something I don't get to do every day. And I said, that sounds like a blast, and it would definitely get me off the farm. That was my biggest motivator, was I did not want to live on my parents' dairy farm any longer than I had to. So airplanes were definitely a far cry from that. I tell everybody that, especially, I think one of the biggest detractors is I don't even know what the tools are. I didn't know what half the tools in my toolbox were when I started A&P school. That should not be a reason not to do it. They will teach you what you need to know. You will pick up the rest along the way. And so that's definitely that's kind of how I got into it, was just saying, you know what, I want to do something with airplanes, but I don't want to be a flight attendant. I don't want to be a pilot. I don't want to be, I kind of narrowed it down to I don't want to be, and let's try maintenance, because that sounds a lot more hands-on.
Awesome, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, for me, as I mentioned earlier, I've always loved math and science. Those are two of my favorite subjects in school. And maybe it's that growing up where my parents lived, it's about half a mile straight from the local airport, municipal airports. From my bedroom window, I could see the beacon light turning at night. And I don't know if that was maybe something that gravitated me towards it. Kind of young, I had a favorite babysitter that set off model rockets with us. So that was probably pretty impactful as well. And so, yeah, I'd always asked for the flying lessons and never really got them, but still said, like, this is what I think I want to do. And so, yeah, once you're at those controls, that you kind of get hooked afterwards. So you'll know if it's for you. And I always try to tell young kids too, that once their feet can reach the pedals, that's when they can start flying. And anybody that ever says, hey, I've always wanted to try that, it's like, hey, you definitely should then. Just give it a go, see what you think.
Awesome, thanks so much. I know Pete just asked if anybody had any questions in the chat. I don't know if anybody saw that, but now would be a wonderful time to ask them. Okay, awesome. Well, it looks like we do have time to do breakout rooms, Pete, if you want to do breakout rooms. I know you said you wanted 15 minutes for that, and we have just about enough time for that.
That's if anybody wants to meet in a breakout room, we can. If not, we can continue the conversation.
I think continuing the conversation would be great. This has been an incredible exchange, and Great Q&A section, ladies. It's just, I mean, this is inspiring for anyone. I'm sitting here at 56 years old going, holy mackerel, I can do this. You know, that's exciting. Wow, you guys did a fantastic job. Thanks. And I think what definitely came through was the passion and enthusiasm. And to me, nothing can be done without that. And of course, your why you're doing this. I mean, getting off the farm, that's got to be a big why. That's all I got to say.
Yeah,
So,
awesome. Oh,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
yeah,
Elaine.
just to echo what Eric was saying, I just want to thank you guys so much. I do have a couple more questions, but I just want to thank you so much because, like I said, I'm super new to aviation, all things aviation, but you guys have like continued to excite me through Pathways to Aviation, and this talk today has been absolutely wonderful. I'm so glad it's not over yet, but the next question I do have is, how important do you guys think mentors and mentorship are?
What was your question, Amanda?
How important do you think mentors and mentorship is?
So I'll take a stab at this one. So I would say it is very important, but don't be stuck in the thought that you have to have an official mentor, or just one mentor. Use the people you meet along the way as for their strengths. I can't remember, it was some educational session that I had attended that said, the speaker said she didn't have a mentor. She had a board of directors. She had someone that she could reach out to for various different parts of her career. So if she needed advice on, you know, say this area over here, she could reach out to this person. And if something completely different was happening, she had another person, you know. So use the people you meet along the way as mentors, use those connections. What you might need from one person won't be what somebody else can provide you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Angel. And it's also a little bit about finding the network and finding that's what I found in my career. I had to kind of find people that were experts in certain areas and connect with them, because it wasn't like I could just sit there and hope that somebody was going to come knock on the door and say, oh, I can tell that you might need some help with this. Like, I really had to go out and find people and putting myself out there, going to conventions, going to, I used to go to all the board meetings at the airport, even if I didn't, when we were brand new, and just talk to other pilots and get to know people. That's how I found the people that could support me throughout. So that's super important.
Yeah, mentorship, it's very important. And we all bring different experiences, everybody. And so the more that you can gain from what others have already learned, and you can take that in, and with aviation, it's all about not repeating the same mistakes and making everything safer and better. And then it's also, once you have that knowledge, it's then our job or your job to then turn it back around and then start educating other people with what you've learned and your experiences. And we've mentioned the imposter syndrome before on this chat, where as a captain already at the airline, I've been doing it for a little over a year, and I'm still learning a lot. Of course, we're going to learn something every single flight, but I do have a lot of first officers that say, thank you, Caitlin, I learned so much from you. And it's not even that I was really trying to teach them anything. It's just you impart your knowledge as you go, and it's all very important. It's all of our job to do that.
Great. What would you guys recommend for finding mentors? Like, would you go through LinkedIn, conventions? What do you think the best route would be?
I think continuously reaching out, and any of those platforms are great. The in-person conventions or seminar type things, that's awesome. Everybody's always so willing to like I said, get you in contact with somebody who may have the answers, even if we don't. And LinkedIn, there's different groups amongst Facebook or other social medias. Or just the word of mouth in person too.
I'd say I'd completely agree. Any of those platforms are fantastic. Just remember to reach out. that's, I think, one of the biggest takeaways for me is if I am looking for advice, I need to be the one to reach out. Otherwise, the other person doesn't necessarily know that I need something. And a lot of times, especially if you're reaching out to someone who's, you know, you're really wanting that person that's way up there, they need to fit you into their schedule, for lack of a better term. If you never reach out to them, they don't know what your availability is, and they don't know if you're going to be serious. So that I think is a big thing with mentoring, and looking for a good mentor is to keep in that constant contact, even if it's just a quick text saying, hey, just wanted to say hi, you know, so they keep thinking about you.
Yeah, and I think organizations like Pathways to Aviation, for example, I mean, that's what you guys do, right? Introduce young people to people that could potentially become mentors and help people out. You know, we've seen a bunch of young kids coming through Pathways of Aviation and ended up flying with us at Sierra Aero, you know, and seeing their career, seeing them move away. I know we have one kid now that just moved to Alaska and got his going to school. I mean, it's so fun. But and AWAM, I mean, you have a wonderful organization there too for women to reach out and get connected with mentors. So there's a bunch of nonprofits out there too that can definitely help.
Awesome, thanks. I see that Amy, you said you had a question in the chat.
Yeah, thanks. Just really quick. Wanted to make sure I was listening, and it's hard to type out a thought at the same time. Thank you for all your information. I just, along the same lines of mentorship, but a much briefer span of time. I'm up in Alaska for about 4 weeks, and I'd love to do a little bit of flying here, but I'm not really sure how to do that as far as just finding a CFI here to get a few hours in or something. I'm going to be training down in Southern California. And unfortunately, I'm not in Anchorage. I'm not somewhere, or Palmer, where there are flight schools. I'm in Sitka. And I know obviously there's tons of pilots around here. Would you recommend, you know, is there a great search tool for finding CFIs in the area, or should I just go to the airport and start talking to people? Any recommendations? I'd love to get a little flying in here, even if just as a passenger. You know?
I would go to the airport, Amy. Go to the airport, and they might have a local pilot organization that they can give you contact info for, and they might know some CFIs. One organization that we joined when we first started truck, it was EAA. I mean, it's not just experimental plane pilots; it's all pilots. The EAA is a wonderful organization too, and they do a bunch of nonprofit, you know, take kids flying and do a bunch of great stuff for aviation too. So I would reach out to the airport, and they'll know somebody. Good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Give them a call, and then to keep in mind, if you are starting to do things like rent for fun, if you're doing more than just like riding along as a passenger, do ask questions like, do you require insurance, different things like that, just to make sure that you cover your bases too. But yeah, absolutely. Either call or just show up to the airport. Yeah.
And if I could add in, guys, Civil Air Patrol's everywhere. And, you know, they're usually a group that knows tons of people, you know, folks at the FBOs and all that. So any flight organization is great. Just, you know, you got to love Google, man. You know, you can Google anything, anywhere, anytime. So thanks for letting me butt in.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Does anybody have any other questions?
I had a question. This is Robin up here. I'm trying to make my video work for you. There we are. Hi. I really appreciate everybody on the panel today. It's been a lot of fun to listen to you all and hear your experiences. I've been in the aviation field for a long time myself and flew cargo and airlines, and now find myself as a director in a college program trying to support about the same amount of women as we had 20 years ago, sadly. So we do a lot of outreach. We have a thing called Women Can Do, where 500 women high schoolers come, and honestly, I don't think I don't think we're making the numbers. So I'm wondering if there's any outreach that you saw during your careers that you thought, that's the one, that's what we need to really, we've talked a lot during this presentation about, sort of specifically to us, what kind of helped us, but I'd love to know if there's outreach that you think we're not doing that we should be doing. And if there are also things that helped you during your time in your college or university to stay there, that like, oh, this made me feel like I belong. One of you mentioned somebody that looks like me. Yeah, we do really appreciate that. So anyway, those are my couple questions. What kind of outreach do you think we're not doing and would work, and what helped you during your college careers?
I'll start. I would definitely say, Robin, the one thing that for me, that when I was looking, when just the beginning stages, was seeing the school I ended up going to was at a career fair. So I'm sure your school does them. But I will reiterate, those are super important, because had that school not been at the career fair, I may have decided to go a different route. Just the access to the information was huge. And then the thing that I've been kind of touting lately is reach out to middle schools. Reach out to middle schools, because by high school, I've got 2 high schoolers now. They already think they know everything in the world. They think they know what they want to do.
Yeah.
So even though I was the same way, like I said, I knew exactly what I wanted to do until I didn't. And then it was back to the drawing board. But for some kids, I think that middle school introduction gets them actually seriously thinking about possibly those career paths. And I think that's an area where a lot of the industry can improve on, is trying to get that information to the kids at a younger age.
Yeah, thanks for that. We have also started moving that date line back a little bit, even if it just means what we call now STEAM outreach. Plus, they're just so much fun to work with.
Yeah, they're way more engaged.
Oh, are they ever? You're gonna let me fly an airplane? I can't drive a car. And that goes for maintenance too, by the way,
Yeah.
because we have an aviation maintenance program. Anyone else with any feedback on that?
Yeah, I know. I remember going to a couple of Girl Scout events when I was really young, and there was a couple of aerospace based badges that we were trying to earn, and so that was usually a pretty impactful thing. It was a really cool day when we would go and do something that involved aircraft or aerospace. So probably things like Girl Scouts, getting in, some FaceTime with some of that type of stuff. In middle school, I remember there was like a Saturday event type thing called Girls 2, which focused on STEM or the STEAM industry. And so that was just, it was like, hey, come see what this is about. If it's something that maybe you haven't really been told you can do this, that was kind of like an initial look into some of those types of industries and what careers you could have with that. And that was about middle school age too for that. And even see if you guys can go and sponsor other things, like maybe little fly-ins or something where you're getting just a little bit more FaceTime with just different people in the industry too. That can help promote as well. Well, the word of mouth, they'll help promote you too once you guys just kind of get out there a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree on that one too. One thing to consider might be like air shows and air fairs, because that's we have one in Truckee every year, and we love being part of it because we see thousands of people in one day, and all these kids that come up and ask questions. I mean, that's all I do all day. I stand there and just ask questions from kids, and it's really cool. Like we're lucky. Our shop is like right in the middle of where the air show is, so we keep the door open, roped off, mechanics working, a training plane sitting outside, pilots there, so kids can come up and ask any type of questions. I think that's because a lot of people go to air shows and see that and go, wait a minute, that was not my aviation background, but when I was a kid, my dad was a scuba diving instructor, and no women, I mean, 0 women were diving when I was a kid, 0. When I was in my 20s, I went on a trip one time and saw my first female instructor on the boat, and I went, wait a minute, I can do that. So I know Angel talked about that too. If I can see somebody like me doing something, I realize that I can do it too. So air show, fairs could be a good idea.
Awesome.
And it is impactful too when somebody can actually sit down in an aircraft, a real airplane, not just even a mock-up, and be at the controls, and you just kind of get to take it all in for a second, and you never know what that could spark for anybody too.
I know our local AWAM chapter, we've been able to, fortunately, here with UPS, we've been able to do various hangar tours with some of the local high schools. And I think we even did one middle school, was able to come in and do a tour. We got to go through, they got to go up on an airplane, they got to walk around an airplane, they got to even, we had one group that was more engineering focused. They walked through engineering and got to kind of talk to some of those guys. And so I think that helped. We actually had, I want to say 2 individuals that directly because of the tour then went and pursued their A&P. So it was some good feedback even. We were like, wow, you don't hardly ever get that kind of feedback even from some of those outreaches. So sometimes you don't know how much of an impact they are, but that if you have opportunity to go to a hangar or a facility, or even having tours through your college, that's impactful too, to see what the actual stuff going on is big for kids, I think.
Okay, thanks so much for everybody's feedback. I really appreciate you all being here and being able to join in today.
Okay, awesome. Well, it looks like we are about to hit the 1 o'clock hour. So if anybody has any quick questions, that would be your last call. Awesome. Sound like it. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Pete.
All right, Amanda. Wow. You hit it off. The first show of the week, and it was amazing. So Jessica, Kaylin, Angel, you guys were amazing. Amanda, you ran it. It was incredible. Thank you so much to Robin and the other instructors on this program. Pathways to Aviation is a resource to you as well, not just the candidates. We're happy to promote Vermont Tech and other schools to help drive admissions, but also help your students when they leave the program, leave it successfully, seamlessly, by us helping them identify the possible job openings, but really to help frame their resumes, their elevator pitches, their networking capacities, and their interviewing skills so that they can easily get the jobs that they want, not just any job. And that's what Pathways to Aviation does. We work with individual candidates like Amanda to help them, take the goal that they have and really make it shine for scholarships, college admissions, and employment. So if there are any candidates on this call that want to help themselves by going through this process, I know I just reviewed Amanda's resume, so she has a bunch of feedback coming her way that she's dealing with, but happy to work with you, because what we want to do is we want to help you land the job that you want. Again, not just any job. So that's what Pathways to Aviation is all about. Just to remind, we have another show in 1 hour. It's similar to this, where we're working, or we're going to learn more about anybody from underrepresented populations. You guys talked about that 3% of women are in aviation maintenance. That's just crazy. We need to increase those numbers. But there are other cultures, backgrounds, skin colors, religious backgrounds that are not as represented as they should be. We're going to address that at the 11 a.m. Pacific workshop. So everybody's invited to attend that. And one of our attendees, Marlis, will be the moderator for that program. So on behalf of Pathways to Aviation, thank you so much for your participation today. And we really hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Well done, Amanda. And ladies, thank you so much for your comments and the valuable information you shared, because I know we've got a little time left there, Pete. Sorry. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for coming in, sharing your experiences, opening yourselves up. And Amanda, I know adults that couldn't have moderated a better panel than you did. So way to go, girl.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, take us out, Eric.
Okay, gang, we're out of here in 3, 2, 1. Bye, guys.